Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Patrons video today that I'm making for Dinnerhe as part of their custom monthly music review. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track on the screen from an act named Britney Spears, titled Piece of Me. Apparently it is Chinese New Year, so happy Chinese New Year to any of you that are watching this. Hopefully you're having a great time with friends and family and doing all the good things. And we're going to listen through this track from start to finish and we're going to hear what we think. Let's go, let's do it. I mean, the music production is actually just sensational, isn't it?
I'm missing American dreams since I was 17. Don't matter if I step on the scene or sneak away to the Philippines. They still gon' put pictures of my derriere in the magazine. You want a piece of me? You want a piece of me? This bad media karma,
I mean, that's just a real... I'm going to try not to interrupt too much, but I feel like that's just a really good use of vocal tuning there. It's like a stylistic thing.
Drama, guess I can't see the harm in working and being a mom. And with a kid on my arm, I'm still an exceptional earner. You want a piece of me?
And that sub-bass resonance there is pretty neat.
This is lifestyle of the rich and famous.
You want a piece of me?
This is, oh my god, that Britney shameless. You want a piece of me? This is extra, it's just in.
You want a piece of me?
She's too big, now she's too thin. You want a piece of me?
Great. I mean, like, sorry, again, like, I'm just actually noticing a lot of really cool stuff in regards to the actual music production. What I especially like, I reckon you should be listening to this through headphones. I think a passive listen doesn't really do this track justice. I can feel this intense sub bass that almost is more of a cinematic sort of dramatic experience there that's so subtle. I think unless you've got like a sort of a captive kind of response from your headphones, and it's just the width of the vocals in that chorus section that literally bigger because the way they're spread around that, it's really cool.
Paparazzi who's flipping me off, hoping I'll resort to some havoc, end up settling in court. Now are you sure you want a piece of me? You want a piece of me? This is most likely to get on the TV for slipping on the streets when getting the groceries. Not for real, are you kidding me? No wonder there's panic in the industry. I mean, please, do you want a piece of me? I'm Mrs. Lifestyle of the rich and famous.
You want a piece of me?
This is, oh my god, that Britney shameless. You want a piece of me? This is extra, this just in.
You want a piece of me?
She's too big, now she's too thin. You want a piece of me? I'm missing American dreams since I was 17. Don't matter if I step on the scene or sneak away to the film.
Great iteration and adjustment of the melodies for the similar line.
Magazine. You want a piece of me? You want a piece of me?
And even a solo section.
You want a piece of me? I'm Mrs. Lifestyle of the rich and famous.
You want a piece of me?
This is, oh my god, that Britney shameless. You want a piece of me? This is extra, it's just in.
You want a piece of me?
She's too big, now she's too thin. You want a piece of me? This is lifestyle of the rich and famous.
You want a piece of me?
This is, oh my god, that Britney shameless. You want a piece of me? This is extra, it's just in.
You want a piece of me?
She's too big, now she's too thin. You want a piece of me? Piece of me?
And dynamic range, just coming down with nothing else.
You want a piece of me?
I mean, like, this production within this track was incredible. Piece of Me. It's a really, really awesome song. I mean, this is the same album that's got Give Me More on it, and I'm not as familiar with a lot of her other stuff off this album, or even really in general. But I think that's almost like a real massive shame, because this is my review of this track from an actor named Britney Spears, titled Piece of Me off of the Blackout album. Now, when I was growing up, and I know what this track is about. I grew up and I always kind of heard about the kind of mischief and shenanigans and rumors and all that kind of stuff about Britney Spears and what she was going through. And I've been loosely following on to, along with like the lore of Britney Spears and what they've had to go through, like with the conservatorship especially, but just like, it's been brutal. It's been difficult to watch Britney Spears' career at times, especially when there's a lot of forces outside of her control that are causing these issues. But like, this is just a fantastic song. And what I will say here is, I don't think I've heard a specifically weak Britney Spears track. They just, the ones that were bangers, that were hits, that were big, they were big for reasons. It's not just that Britney Spears can sing well, or like that they can sing and like they have like this sort of like attitude to it. And I've also heard tracks like dry tracks of Britney singing where it hasn't always been in tune and stuff. I more mean that like there's more to singing than just being able to keep pitch. It's like the attitude behind it, the expression behind it. It's the way that you carry yourself, and the fact that they're dancing as well and doing all this other stuff whilst they do it is impressive. You know, so I feel like, again, I'm not simping for Britney Spears. It's just they know what they're doing, and there's a lot of really like genuine reasons why you would appreciate their music. They're one of the biggest pop artists in the 2000s, at least. It was awesome. And so even though, again, I was a metalhead at the time, not massively as much into it, I appreciate that they're making this song about all the exposure. They got all this kind of rumors and all this kind of drama and beef that was going on. And they're kind of addressing it like, you want a piece of me, you want a piece of this, you're going to say all this stuff and spread this crap, you know, you want a piece of this, etc. Like, Britney's challenging those people who are saying these things. And I think that's very powerful and very important. It's an admission that maybe things aren't absolutely perfect all the time, but like, what am I going to do about it? I'm just going to continue to try and be the best I can, and I still do okay. I still support my family, etc. You know, like, and so that's what the song I think is about. I think that the actual vocal performance itself, again, it's not like an operatic, virtuosic performance. It's more like it's the style that Britney Spears had, of that kind of sort of like the sensual kind of like sort of like kind of breathy, kind of like there's a little bit of like graininess to it. It's just like almost like some of the words I don't really know how to describe it, actually. Her vocal style is kind of unique, and I appreciate that. But the melodies that we chose, the tuning that we chose on the vocals to get the sounds that we needed within this were very effective. And I think that they were just interesting vocal textures. I think part of the graininess was because of some of the filtering of the digital sort of like fragmentation or the synthesizing that we were doing on some of those parts. And it's just effectively just a really refreshing take. We're aware that, again, we might have some tuning going on, and we're really going into the bit. We're not allowing ourselves to feel like we've got to back off or anything like that. We're really committing to the concept and sort of the theater of that sort of electronic side of things here, which I think is cool. And this track, you know, structurally outside of the vocals and, you know, the male and female sort of like parts in the chorus and stuff like that, it's a song where it really does commit to the bit in terms of like the synths, the pads, the bass, the sub bass resonance there, like the percussion, the actual implementation of the sound design itself, the way that certain synths like and bass like rose there and things pushed around the stereo field. And just before we continue, I also want to go back to the vocals just very briefly and give a shout out to the fact that in the chorus they were just so big. It was just so satisfying when they went out like that. You don't always get that. Often people will sort of be in the center, or maybe they'll be at like 1, 2, 5, but we went right out, and it drastically cemented them in a way that was very, very it was very positive, because the synths would go up, wah, and then Britney would be here, and it's like, oh, cool. I'm being led by the nose, but it's okay. Compositionally, for a lot of it, we have these sort of fuzzy synth bass, these kind of square waves that, you know, highlight the root notes of the chords. Some of the melodies that Britney Spears sing, they turn into sort of either like harmonies, like either like, well, they're double tracked, or they split into triads or like thirds, and they create a lot of the chordal color within it when they are there. But almost when we do double track to the unison note with the bass lines there, it's very powerful and it syncs really neatly with the percussion, which actually is kind of interesting as well. And there's like not massive amounts of variety within the actual drum parts themselves, but the samples sound kind of cool. They're kind of groovy. They have this kind of polish to them. They've got like kind of a chainy kind of rattled some of the hits there, which kind of goes away from a traditional sort of snare sound or something like that. And it almost like the chains, they kind of sound like chains a little bit. It's just an interesting sample choice there. And those little bits alone can transform an eighth or a quarter note groove, even a 16th, into something a bit more special, because it adds a bit of sort of more further personality to it. And with the portamento feel of a lot of those different synth parts, not least including like the synth solo that we had like near the end of the part, how it just float between the lower and high range, just go up, and like you could feel it in the headphones, like that. It's just really cool. It's cool how we had enough room within the composition to actually float that to get away with us being able to have things sort of fluctuate like that. There was incredible attention to dynamic range, not having the same loudness the entire time, which I always respect. It's always refreshing to have like the ability for a track to breathe. But I think it was effectively the same bass line and chord progression or motif the entire time, just represented by a lot of different instruments, or maybe even less instruments, but doing several different things and kind of splitting and sort of swiffing around, and it was dope. And as a final note on the overall development, like in terms of the actual synthesizers within the track, we have some bump, some different sounds as we go further through the track. We're not instantiating all the sounds we want earlier on. We're choosing different tone to kind of sort of squaring things up, even at the end of the track, introducing some sort of more kind of boxish kind of tone there with a nice sort of reverb tail on it there, just to sort of shake things up. We're not allowing the listener to feel like they're ever completely understanding it. We're always adding just enough to keep things sounding fresh. I don't really know how to describe the theme before we move on to the production. I don't really know how to describe it. It's like minor, oriented, but there's some sort of almost like middling equilibrium stuff going on there with some of the parallel majors potentially. I'm not sure. It's tricky. It's a tricky one to tie down there. It's almost like we're initially in like a not ideal situation with the pressure we're under, but we're also kind of questioning whether people really still want to continue to be involved with that because of the decisions we're making to try and sort of combat that. So I feel like it's just more kind of like inviting you just to sort of like kind of low-key sort of vibe and dance along to it without necessarily trying to attribute a mood to it, apart from it sounding kind of cool and chic. But the studio production, the recording, mixing and mastering is tight. I'm very satisfied with the way that things were handled in that regard there. The vocals were nice and present within the mix. They were all around the stereo field. We had lots of different ways of interpreting and implementing them, and very interesting textures and modulations and filters going on in several parts. The various different synth layers, whether they be pads, sequences, leads, or basses, they all niche neatly within the frequency spectrum and the stereo field, as well as the bass and the actual drums themselves. And any other effects we had there were tremendous. There was dynamic range. Sometimes things would stop completely. Other times it'd be full of life and huge sounding, and just that ability to also kind of pierce through the fourth wall in a sense, like the way the kind of music kind of rises into you there. That intensity in the lower frequencies, it's just the power and the cinematic effect of that is very interesting. And it requisites listening to this track via headphones. It was nice to know that pumping to the bus compression limiting was handled, and it's just a really positive review of this track from Britney Spears, titled Piece of Me, and I really actually enjoyed my time with it, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go show them some love via their various social medias and Spotify page, and stay cool and stay safe, and please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next SP Patrons video. Spiderhands out.